Such sights to show you.
Hell yeah.
That last part means subscribe. Welcome to the Horror Syndicate Discourse. It's Sunday night, and for some reason, I feel like I'm really close to the screen, but I'm not. It's weird. I may have to back out and come back in. I don't like being like this close. So what I'll do is I'll add other people because then I won't be as close. Tonight we're talking about the Mist. And Nathan has a You Gotta See This, another silent era film. And Jared is not here, but he's planning on joining. He wanted me to get these ready for him because I guess he's got them sweaty pits. Anyway, without further ado, here is Seth, Sequel Seth. Seth, how you doing?
Doing pretty good. How are you?
The best part about doing the show is you guys, we come into this like green room area, and I get to say, how you doing to you guys twice, and then you get to answer twice, so it's like repetitive. But it's better than me just sitting there and be like, waiting for the show to start, just staring at you guys. Anyway, I'm glad to see you. What shirt you got on tonight? What's that?
Needful Things.
Ah, Needful Things. When you're a fan of something, you go all in. All in! That's what I admire.
Pretty much.
Yeah. All right. And, of course, Nathan Thomas Milner, which I can see what he's wearing. Is that from the show last night?
Yep, from the Max Sabbath concert we went to last night.
I had no idea. I think you mentioned it to us a couple weeks ago, and I'm like, what is that? And I saw some of your pictures that you put up today. I was like, that looks out of control.
Yeah, I had no idea who they were. A buddy of mine, Dick Starr, who's a good artist from Louisville as well, he does there's a beef jerky brand out there called Louisville Vegan Beef Jerky. I don't know if y'all get it where you're at, but they sell vegan jerky, and he does a lot of the package art for them. And so they did like an exclusive packaging art for Max Sabbath. And so we were talking the other night, and he said, have you ever heard of them? I was like, no. He goes, oh, they're playing this Saturday. And I was like, oh shit. And it sounded like right up my old friend Jason Monks' alley, a guy I used to draw comic books with and went to college with. And his son is actually best friends with my nephew now. And they love rock music and everything. So I called up my nephew. I was like, we got to go. You got to get Jason and Jackson to go. And they were like totally down. And we went. And yeah, it's like, of course, it's a parody of Black Sabbath.
Right.
Where they dress up like McDonald's characters, but they're kind of a blend of like the burger guy looks like a little bit of Motorhead. He's got the horns coming out of the hamburger head, and then the guy playing Ronald McDonald kind of has a little Alice Cooper makeup on, but he acts just like Ozzy, and his stage name is Ronald Osborne, and
Nice.
And the drummer is dressed like the Hamburglar, but he's the Cat Burglar, and he's dressed like Peter Criss meets the Hamburglar. So he's got the cat makeup on, and he talks and acts just like both of them, like act like Ozzy and Peter Criss.
That's cool.
And they do kind of a comedy stick between each other, like from the drum kit to the mic. And he's got like a grill out in front. He's burning stuff and cooking stuff. And basically all the songs have been turned to be about food and fast food and the evils of the fast food world and the dangers of the fast food. And then you got Grimace, who is Grima Alice.
I was going to ask, they have a Grimace.
They have a Grimace. And then all the guys selling merch are dressed like McDonald's employees. They have the hat that says Mick Sabbath. And they do some other things, like they do like Beth, Like the drummer gets up and sings Beth, but it's called Bread instead of Beth. So, and then they do a cover of Love Gun, but it's Love Buns. We still love buns. And they do like Iron Man. He comes out like, I am frying pan, and they have a frying pan. And I mean, they sound great. They're just funny, but the guy it's so great because he has Ozzy down, like his mannerisms, the way he claps and dances, and like, yeah, man. He does the laugh just like him, and so it was really fun. And it was what's weird is we did. Jace, we were talking about Eraserhead before the show started, and David Lynch, and Jason was going about, he loves Blue Velvet. That's his favorite. And we used to watch Blue Velvet back in our 20s, back in the 90s. And he used to always quote the line in Blue Velvet where they're talking about beer, and the guy has Heineken, and Dennis Hopper's like, Heineken, bullshit, Pabst Blue Ribbon, or so, so there's a part in the show where they were pouring some beer down a long straw for Ronald to drink. And he goes, what the hell did you feed me tonight? And he goes, Heineken. He goes, Heineken? Bullshit. Pabst Blue Ribbon. And also they start playing the song from Blue Velvet where Dean Stockwell is lip singing. It's like this, and he's singing into like a light bulb. So he had this light and he's carrying around and he's crooning. I got the video and I posted the videos of them performing on that post. And they go through it, and everyone's dancing together. Grimace is dancing with the cat burglar, and it's like this kind of Roy Orbison, crooning song. And he's Ronald just going singing to this light bulb, just like in Blue Velvet. I was like, that's hilarious.
Sounds like quite the show.
And then they would make jokes about names, like, oh, there's other bands like Great White Castle and Burger King Diamond.
Oh my God.
Chick-fil-A CDC, and we don't play with them. They won't play on Sundays, man. They always not showed up on Sundays. I mean, we take Tuesday off. Why don't they take Tuesday off? So yeah, it was a blast. If they're coming to your town, look them up. You got to go see it. It was as the guy who was with us said, it was the best $30 I ever spent. What's
the name of the band again?
Mac Sabbath.
Mac Sabbath.
Yeah, and there's a video on YouTube of Ozzy Osbourne met him. Like Jack Osbourne took him to meet him.
Oh wow!
Yeah, and they got to meet and hang out with Ozzy. And Ozzy was like laughing.
Oh, I bet he was.
Yeah.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, Jared Letourneau's here. Everybody, get excited! There you go.
Jared, welcome for joining.
Welcome for joining.
I'm wonderful.
First time in 2023, Jared is here right now.
Oh, baloney. I know I haven't been on for the last few weeks, but it is lovely to see all of your beautiful faces again. I hope all you guys had a wonderful 4th of July. And if you didn't have your yearly intake of Jaws, hopefully you watched my favorite sequel, which was Jaws 3D.
Yeah, Jaws 3, People Zero.
Yeah, Jaws 3, People Zero. Yeah, I did get the sweaty pits, but I haven't watched Jaws 3 yet this year.
I just noticed your name, Ray.
My second favorite sequel, which was the second one.
4th best.
Jared, you missed it last week. I was called the least favorite of all of us.
Well, I would call it hogwash on that.
Yeah, well, it's whatever. That guy is obsessed with Nate and Seth, and that's fine. I've got my own obsessed fan. It's right here, as a matter of fact. It always blows at me. It's weird. Anyway, yeah, tonight we are talking about...
I figured I would be, because I'm the most unreliable.
No, but you have those boyish good looks. You're like the, I don't know. I have nothing funny to say, because I'm not funny, apparently. Anyway.
He's all the hair. He's got all the hair.
Got all the hair.
The nice head of hair there.
Nice growing beard. Good looking smile. Oh, that Kansas boy.
Like Subway.
So we are talking about The Mist. At some point we will talk about The Mist. But before that, there's a couple things. Next week, Jared, I hope you're around because we are doing a George Romero retrospective. And it'll be like the Wes Craven episode where we just kind of go through his filmography and talk about each film. So
Yes.
yes,
Yes.
and not just the zombie movies, because George Romero's more than zombies, folks. He also has a love story. Um,
And monkeys.
and monkeys. I thought she was great, by the way. This Carmody. I just we'll get to that eventually, but I think she was great. Is he going to keep his shirt on tonight, Jared? We can't promise anything. Jared gets a little wild sometimes.
I got
The
tattoos
shirt
done.
may fly. There it
There
is.
they go. I got tattoos.
So tonight we're going to start with Nate's new topic. It's called "You Got to See This: Nate's Adventures Through Filmland," and he's got another silent era film for us. And is it German?
It is German. It's a Fritz Lang film. So
Well, I saw the name Fritz,
Nosferatu.
and that's everybody
Fritz.
calls Germans Fritzes. Fritz, hey Fritz.
Yes, master.
Yeah. So go ahead. Tell
All
us
right.
about this
So
one.
Destiny. I actually watched this about a couple months ago. I picked up the Blu-ray when Kino Lorber had their 50% off sale, or I think it was 50% off. So here's like the Blu-ray. I guess it's a remaster. This is a 1921 film by the great Fritz Lang, who you should know. I guess his biggest film would be Metropolis, or maybe you saw Peter Lorre in M. If you haven't, you need to see that. Probably kind of a movie that made Peter Lorre who he is. But this movie came out in 1921, and I kind of blind bought it basically because of Fritz Lang, one of the great German expressionist directors. And this one is inspired by an old Indian folk tale called Savitri. It's a Hindu story about a princess who married an exiled prince who is prophesied to die early. The princess saves him from the god of death, Yama, persuading him to restore his life. So in this film, it opens. We begin with this couple who are traveling. They're fiance. They're engaged. And
Sue?
no, that's I don't know if I got a picture. I think I got them sitting at a table together, maybe.
Most of the pictures are with that creepy guy.
Yeah, it's them there on the right. That's the couple. And they are traveling in a cart, like a carriage, and this guy here stops them. And, he's in this hat and cloak, very stoic, doesn't say a lot. And they give him a ride to the town that they're going to. And they're all staying here in this kind of, I guess, a hotel, hostel, whatever. And they're having dinner right here. And he sits down next to them. And that's the server looking at him like, what the hell's wrong with this dude? But what happens is the guy, he goes to the town. He wants to purchase property by the cemetery. And they sell it to him, and he builds this huge wall. And there's no entrance through the wall. It's kind of a gate. There's no gate for it. It's a huge wall. Yeah, that's the wall. That's him standing there. And it's kind of a double exposure because it fades into a close up of him. So you're seeing a little bit of him in that shot there. But like he says, there is a gate, but he won't tell anyone how to get through. And so the couple's there having dinner, and I think they spill something, and the woman gets up to go get something to clean it up. She goes in the room, and there's these kittens back there in the kitchen, and so she starts playing with the kittens. And when she comes back out, the man and the stranger, and everyone's talking about this stranger, the man and the stranger are gone. And the townspeople are like, well, yeah, he left with the other guy, with the stranger. So she goes looking for her fiance, and she can't find him, and she ends up at the wall, and she looks up, and she sees all these ghosts walking over the hill. I think I have a still of that.
It's hard to see some of these. There's an owl.
It's an owl that's by the cemetery.
No, I don't think, unless it's this here. Yeah, there it is.
That's it there. So all these ghosts are coming over the hill, and they start passing through the wall. So, and then in the middle of this group is her fiance. So she finds out that he's dead, and he's going through, and she's trying to hold him. So she goes to this stranger who is actually death, and she wants her fiance back. And he takes her into this room, and that's the one where he's holding the baby. There's all these candles, and all these candles lit are, I guess, everyone's souls. And as long as the candles are lit, that's our lives when we're alive. And you blow out the candle, we're dead. So he tells her that if she loves him as much as she says, that she can go. There are 3 souls that he has to collect, and he's lamenting about being death, having to kill. He's holding a baby, and that baby dies. So that's why he's holding that baby, because he has to kill children. He has to kill. He has to take their souls. So he's not he's a melancholy figure. But there's 3 candles that are needing to be extinguished, and he tells her that if she goes and saves just one of these lives, that he will reunite her with her husband or fiance. So the movie becomes kind of almost an anthology from there, where she goes on these 3 different separate trips, in all over the world. And I even think I guess it's not through time, but she goes all these places in the world trying to save these people who are supposed to die that day. And that's kind of where the movie goes. But it was a really powerful film. It has a great ending. This was Hitchcock's favorite film. A lot of big people are highly influenced by this. Alfred Hitchcock called it his favorite film. Douglas Fairbanks bought the American rights for $5,000, not to release it, but he was about to make The Thief of Baghdad. He wanted to learn and copy the technical advances that Lang made in this movie. Let's see.
This movie sounds metal as fuck.
It is metal. The 3 stories, one takes place in the Middle East, the other takes place in Venice, and the last takes place in the Chinese Empire. Let's see. Lang's. All right, I wrote some things down. Lang's vision of death in the film was from a fever dream he had as a kid. He recalled envisioning the approach of the dark stranger in a wide-brimmed hat, illuminated by the moonlight streaming in through a half-open window. I slept and dreamed, or was I awake? He glimpsed the tear-stained face of my adored mother. Now, Lang's mother had died recently when he wrote this, so he was kind of making his comment on mortality. As she slipped from view, he raised himself up weakly to be led away by death. Helping hands grabbed him, pushed him down, saved him. The horror of the dream experience combined with a kind of mystical ecstasy, which gave me, boy, though I was still, the complete understanding of the ecstasy which made martyrs and saints embrace death. Lang recovered, but the love of death, compounded of horror and affection, he said, stayed with me and became a part of my life. Another filmmaker who was greatly inspired was Louis Buñuel, the French filmmaker who directed Un Chien Andalou. I don't know how to say it. It's this famous little short film.
Un Chien Andalou.
Yeah. Was highly inspired. Most people know about the eyeball cutting scene from that movie. It's short. He states, when I saw Destiny, I suddenly knew that I wanted to make movies. It wasn't the 3 stories themselves that moved me so much, but the main episode, the arrival of the man in the black hat, whom I instantly recognized as Death in the Flemish village, and the scene in the cemetery. Something about this film spoke something deep in me. It clarified my life and my vision of the world. In his film, 2 lovers are buried in the sand in reference to the Frank's death in the film. This film also, the performance of the guy who played Death, which is Bernard Gotsky, influenced Death in Ingmar Bergman's The Seventh Seal. as well. So this movie inspired Buñuel, Hitchcock, and Bergman.
That's crazy.
It's I mean it's definitely definitely worth the money I paid for it. I've watched
It looks hauntingly beautiful.
It is. It's I mean with Lang you're gonna like when it comes to those German expressionists, if it's Lang or Marnell, they're fucking worth your time every time because those guys were just geniuses and they make. I've watched a lot of silent films. The Germans made kind of the best looking, most beautiful films. The Swedish too. Victor, who we talked about last week, the one who made what was the one I talked about last? The carriage, the Phantom Carriage.
That was a couple weeks ago. Yeah.
Oh, it's a couple weeks. But yeah, the Germans, they just knew what they were doing. They were ahead of everybody. And with Fritz Lang, you can't go wrong. But yeah, this is it's on YouTube. You know, I recommend the Blu-ray or DVD if you want from Kino Lorber. But if you want to just check it out, it won't cost you a dime. Just go to YouTube, and it's also in public domain. As I said, anything from 1927 back is in the public domain as of this year. So yeah, it's out there. It's about I don't know an hour and a half long. I think it's not very long. Let's see. Runtime 98 minutes, so it's a little over. But yeah, it's just an awesome movie. One I highly recommend horror fans check out. Kind of like the Phantom Carriage, it has this beautiful kind of fairy tale story. Also, after I watched it, I was working on a screenplay at the time, and it kind of rubbed off on me a little bit. I included a death figure in my short based on watching this. So I guess I like Bergman and them. I was inspired by that.
And you said it's available on YouTube?
Yep.
And I looked, and it's also available to rent on Vudu for like $2. So check it out. Destiny. It's Nate's is silent film of the week. I don't know. Are you doing all silent for this segment or?
Well, I've been like watching films in that era a lot lately, and I'm trying to find movies. I mean, this is not like an unknown film,
Right.
Neither was Phantom Carriage and all that. But I think a lot of people haven't watched silent films, so it's easier to find these like really good gems in there of that era because you know, like it's like the foreign thing. A lot of people have trouble watching silent film, just like they have trouble watching foreign language films. So, you know, I'm not going to sit here and talk about Dracula and Frankenstein and shit like that. Everyone's seen that. So I'm trying to find one I was going to do was The Hands of Orlok, which I've never seen, which I've seen the remake, which was Mad Love with Peter Lorre. But that may be the next one I watch, and maybe I'll bring that up on a future show. But probably at least one more silent film before I get to the talkies. And when I get to the talkies, I'll try to find movies from like the 30s that aren't as well known, but that really hit me. I don't want to recommend anything that doesn't just like really blow me away. Like I watched a couple movies this week to take the place of Destiny because I watched Destiny about a month or so ago. But everything I watched, I just wasn't like, I can't go on here and preach for this movie. Like, but Destiny was something I think everyone should check out if you haven't.
Yeah, so there you go. If you get a chance, check it out. Destiny. He says it's streaming on YouTube, and it is to rent and at usual places like Amazon and Vudu. So check it out, especially if you're into silent film. Sounds like something right up your alley, Jared.
Oh no, just the pictures already. I'm into it.
Yeah, I think Jared would dig it.
So tonight, let's get into it. We're going to talk about The Mist. And Seth, can you tell us what The Mist is about?
Yeah, I can.
You. Are you going to be an asshole about it? Or are you going to be nice and whatever?
It's been really nice lately.
He has been nice.
Because he likes the movies he's been talking about.
Yeah. Well, do we need to find a movie you don't like?
No, it's not it at all. Just like Last couple times I haven't really been prepared, but I can be an asshole about this one a little bit.
Go ahead.
All right. So it's the 100th year of Antonio Bay and Ghost Pirates. Oh wait, that's fog. Okay.
Wrong mist.
So in Stephen King's Maine, which is the most evil place on earth, there is a secret project where the military and scientists are opening doors to other worlds, and they let in a bunch of creatures, and they attack, and people are kind of trapped inside a grocery store. But luckily, there is hope for them, as Mrs. Carmody takes the lead and just kind of really gets them to bring out the best in each other. And it all culminates into a very sort of heartwarming ending that's fun for the whole family. So, a bunch of creatures attack Maine, and it's a story of hope under the leadership of Mrs. Carmody.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. The best part about this movie, obviously, is the ending, which we'll get to. But the idea that all these people are trapped and in the grocery store, which is a good place to be trapped, except for the giant windows with all the insects. But you got food, you got medicine, some medicine, because they still had to go to the drugstore. But like how they started forming these different little factions in such a short amount of time. So quickly, yeah. It's just how humanity devolves so fast in this movie. And it's barely about the actual monsters outside. It's about the monsters on the inside. And boy, are there some monsters on the inside. I didn't expect much from this movie. At the time, I was a fan of Thomas Jane, because he had just come off of Punisher a couple years before this, and he was really good. Although, not I like the Punisher movie. I don't know if anybody else has a problem with it, but I like it.
I like it.
Yeah, it just shows it's a really good movie. So Nate, you mentioned you watched it in black and white, and tell me, if you could, why
My DVD did not have that option.
I don't either.
It was a special edition that came out shortly after the initial release.
Yeah.
Frank Darabont wanted this movie to be in black and white, and Stephen King said when he had written the short that he always saw it as an old grainy black and white movie from the 50s and 60s, and like a monster movie kind of thing. So Frank always remembered that. So Frank always saw it in black and white. And of course, when did this come out? 2007, 2008, something like that.
07, I believe.
Studios were just, getting a studio to back a black and white film just isn't going to happen, because they just don't sell. People don't go see them. In fact, I remember this one time I was at Horror Hound, and I had my movie. We were premiering it, Girl Number 3, which is in black and white. And we had a TV, and we were showing the trailer, and there was this little boy about maybe 7, 8, and he was sitting at our table watching the trailer, and he was really into it. But about 30, 50 seconds into it, he goes, "Wait a minute, is this in black and white?" And we said, "Yeah." And he just walked away, crushed. He had no interest. I always remember that. But getting a black and white film is not easy to do. I mean, there's a lot of things that Frank wanted to do that he had to. As you mentioned, the ending. He turned down like $30 million because he wanted this ending. He would not make the movie without this ending. So there's a lot of things where this was like a project that Darabont wanted to make for a long time, and when he started, he wanted to make Shawshank Redemption or this, and so he went with Shawshank, but he still wanted to make this. So he got to make
choice,
it.
Really.
Worked out for him for the better on that.
Either way, they're both really good movies. But
Yeah.
Shawshank is better.
Yeah, Shawshank's better, but he wanted to make this, but yeah, he always wanted to make it black and white, but the studio wouldn't let him. But when they came to put it out, it was I don't have it with me, but the copy, but it had a second disc that had the black and white version on it. And after I watched that, I went, oh shit, there's no reason to watch it any other way, because the black and white is gorgeous. And there's other things that he fought for, like Drew Struzan, which the movie pays homage to, with Thomas Jane's character as a movie poster artist. So he said, well, let's make him Drew Struzan, basically. So it's Drew Struzan's art, and Drew Struzan taught Tom how to paint like him, and the painting space is based off of Drew's workspace and his studio to everything. And but the studio wouldn't, from what I understand, I think there is a Drew Struzan poster, but it wasn't used to promote the movie. And I could be getting this mixed up. This could be Guillermo del Toro, because I remember Guillermo del Toro wanted Drew Struzan posters all the time too, but I think Frank did as well. And I could be getting them mixed up. I think I know that del Toro has paid Drew Struzan to do posters for himself.
He did for Hellboy, I know.
For Hellboy, and I think for Pan's Labyrinth. I think Darabont may have done the same with The Mist. And I think when I got this copy, The Mist artwork that Drew did was like an insert on it, like a package. Which, if you open up the one I have, it has the Drew Struzan poster in it. Maybe Seth has it. You got it? Yeah, there's the art.
Yeah.
Glare, but
it's glare, but it's like Tom Jane with his eyes covered. Yeah. So this was definitely a passion project for him, and I'm like, if you guys can get a hold of the black and white version,
I think
definitely pick it up.
I was going to, but I think because I believe they released it on Blu-ray that way when we were doing the old show, Jared, you remember, and Lombardo.
Is this one?
Yeah, that one. Yeah, I think it came out like 2017 or something like that. And Lombardo got it, but I never did. But apparently, it looks like it's $12 on Amazon.
Why doesn't it have the black and white version? Black.
This one does.
It does.
It does.
Hold on. Fine.
I'm still trying to figure out why they hired Aaron Eckhart's understudy, Thomas Jane.
Oh,
they do look a lot alike. Yeah,
they
why?
do
Good.
so much.
They do look like brothers. But, so can we get Thomas Jane to be Two-Face in the new Batman? Asking for a friend, because Eckhart was great. I don't know. I like Thomas Jane in this movie. I saw a movie in '99 with him. The first thing I think I ever saw him in was a film called 61. He played Mickey Mantle.
He played Mickey Mantle. Yeah, that's the first thing I saw him in. Yeah.
He looks exactly like Mickey Mantle. Also, it's like I really like this guy. And kind of followed him through. Get the role of Punisher, as I said in this, and he was in that show. I think that show it was called Hung.
Yeah.
I didn't watch that. I don't care about wieners, but
Hung,
except my own.
I did not.
But
well, Hung was the reason he couldn't do The Walking Dead, if I remember, because Darabont, after working with him on this, wanted him to play Rick Grimes.
Oh, he would have been great as Rick.
Yeah, I'm glad they got Andrew Lincoln, because Andrew's fucking amazing. I think he's a better actor than Tom, but
He might be, but I think Thomas Jane looks more like the comic version of Rick than Andrew Lincoln.
Yeah.
The Mist. Yeah. So this movie, like, what? Do we all agree that it's a really good movie overall? It is.
100.
Yeah, with that material, how could it not be? It's my favorite Stephen King short story. Always has been. I was just first time I read that Skeleton Crew, I was just blown away by it.
What about you, Seth? How do you
The
feel?
only other one for me would be The Body, but yes, that is a very close second.
Yeah, Body's hard to argue against.
Go ahead, Seth. So, is it a delay
What's the
again,
question?
or is it? Oh, how do you feel about this one?
No. About this movie, I think it's really good. I don't remember so much the short story that it's based on. It's been a long time since I read that, but the movie is really good, and it's one of those rare times, like especially when I first watched it, where I sort of had like an actual reaction to it. Like I was getting mad at Mrs. Carmody. Great acting, by the way. She was really good in the role.
Oh yeah.
But the part where the little guy shoots her, I literally like fucking jumped up and started clapping. I'm like, yes, finally someone took care of that bitch. And I don't usually, I'm not usually like that with movies. I don't really get like that involved. But just between the way that the character was written and the acting, it was a hell of a performance. And like this movie, like throughout the whole thing, I mean, not just the ending. We all know the ending's pretty tragic, but the whole movie gets you emotionally. In my opinion, there's a lot that really, whether it be anger, sadness, whatever, like it truly captures, I think, your emotions pretty well.
There are a lot of great little character moments here and there, and it's quite a big cast and a lot of good character kind of actors with Jeffrey DeMunn's in it,
William Sadler.
William Sadler, thank you. I almost lost his last name. You got Doomsday from Smallville is in it as well.
Andre
Whitwer.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of good, and yeah, of course, Laurie from The Walking Dead, whose name escapes me, is in it as well.
Andrea, right? Yeah, it's Laura.
Not Laurie. Lauren Holden.
Laurie Holden. Yeah.
Yeah.
And Carol's in it at the beginning.
Yeah,
That's
Melissa McBride. Yeah, she's this was a movie that kind of made her because she was just like a local talent that came in and auditioned. Like she had, like no one knew who she was, and she came in. She I think it was shot down in Texas, so she's from Lexington, Kentucky. Actually, I met her at Scarefest years ago in Lexington. And she was one of the sweetest people I ever met. Actually, I did a portrait of her as Carol, and she actually cried. Like she was touched and was crying and hugged me, and said she was just moved that somebody would do that. So I love that woman to death. She's amazing, and I was so happy to see her on The Walking Dead because she kills it in this movie. Mm-hmm. And he said after she did that, people were coming up to Frank going, "Who the hell is that lady? Who is she?" Like
she literally had like 2 minutes of screen time.
Yeah, they gave her like a standing ovation after she did her scene. After she did that,
she was believable.
Yeah, and it's incredible.
For a while, she was the best part of The Walking Dead.
Oh, she was for sure.
I mean, it's funny because in the comic, her character gets killed off pretty fast in one of the best ways ever. Also,
yeah, I'm so glad they changed Carol in the show because she did become my favorite character on the show.
Yeah, she was definitely one of the best of the show.
Yeah.
But yeah, and you forget that you've got little bit players like that in this movie, and he rolled over a few of these people too. The Walking Dead.
Yeah, Darabont kind of has his people, like DeMunn, who's done a lot of movies with him, and William Sadler and Laurie. To the point where I was talking to somebody about Walking Dead the other day about how people died off early, and I said that was a lot of politics because when Frank Darabont was basically kicked off The Walking Dead, people like Jeffrey and Laurie wanted off. Like they. And that's why Andrea and Dale didn't last as long or weren't the same on the show. Who were, Andrea was there forever in the comics. One of the
she left almost to the end.
She's one of the greatest characters in the Walking Dead comic. Not so much on the show. No. And I think she just didn't want to.
So was Dale.
Yeah, Dale was a great character.
He lasted a long time in the comic. Like he was the one who he faced the cannibals. He had that. You read
he's a tainted meat one, isn't he?
Tainted meat,
yeah, tainted meat. Yeah. So when Dale died, it was a shock because it's like he wasn't supposed to die in the second season, I think, wasn't it? Like,
yeah, I think so.
When they're selling Herschel's farm.
I was pretty
right around Herschel's farm, I think.
Yeah.
So I think that was because DeMunn just didn't want to be a part of the show anymore out of loyalty to Frank.
It's a shame that Frank was kind of booted from the show.
Yeah. As someone said, he's a fucking genius. I love Frank Darabont. You go back to Dream Warriors, man. Him and Chuck Russell co-writing Dream Warriors, and then The Blob, and
The Blob's a brilliant remake, by the way. You don't say that about too many remakes. There's maybe a handful, but The Blob is fantastic. It's way better than the original, in my opinion.
I think him and Rob Reiner do not get enough talk about how they are the Stephen King like champions. Because Rob's made 2 amazing Stephen King movies in Misery and Stand By Me, and Frank has made 3.
3.
He's made the Green Mile.
Oh, he did the Green Mile? I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
Yep.
And he started out making a Dollar Baby movie, where where Stephen King will let you make one of his short movies for $1, but you just can't sell it. You can't put it online. You can't do anything like that. But he made I think he made the Gray Woman. I think he did the Boogeyman, or he did one like the one. What's the one like I think it's from Night Shift. It's like The Woman in the Room, or.
Oh yeah, I haven't seen that in ages.
He did a short. There's a Dollar Baby movie.
In the Night Shift.
Yeah,
I have not seen that in ages.
He did The Woman in the Room. So this is a guy that goes way back with King, and King actually, people wanted to make The Mist for years. Apparently, Frank said, or Stephen would say, Frank Darabont's got the rights, because he just felt that Frank was the guy who needed to do it if it ever got made. So,
well, this is the last movie he directed, also, which is hard to believe. He hasn't done anything really. Mob City was the last thing he did.
He did TV shows, right? There's like 2 TV, like Walking Dead and Mob City.
Walking Dead and Mob City. What happened to him? Why is he? Did he get blacklisted or something?
Maybe the Walking Dead controversy. Like people thought, well, this guy's too difficult to work with, or something. I don't know. Like sometimes that shit, I guess, can happen, or maybe he just tired of dealing with it.
Yeah, I mean, he had a pretty big lawsuit going with AMC over the Walking Dead situation.
It's a shame because we missed out on at least 10 years of Frank Darabont in the last 10 years or so.
Yeah.
Because he's responsible for a lot of good stuff. Lawsuits, yeah. He did only 4 movies, such talent of a director. That's big praise from somebody who hates everything. I'm sorry. I love Sean. But
that's very well said, though, Sean.
Yeah. He has his moments. He finally settled after years. That's okay. I was able to decipher it. So, yeah, Frank Darabont. I don't think there's anything more we could say about how great he was with this movie and everything else. I didn't realize he did the Green Mile, but that's one I never really watched, to be honest. Nothing against it. It's just I never watched it.
Oh, you've got to see that, man. It's got a lot of these same players in it.
I've seen it. It's just been a long time.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. It's been like it was one of Elizabeth's favorite movies, so it's kind of one of the ones that I don't.
Don't want to revisit.
Yeah, there's a handful of movies like The Fifth Element and Twister, oddly enough, and she loved Bill Paxton. But yeah, and then Green Mile is one of them that I generally don't mess with since she's been gone. They're hard to watch.
Did you guys read it when they were releasing them as a serial when he was releasing that book? That was fun.
I did.
Yeah, that was cool, man. To get it was like every month, like one. Yeah. I think it was like every month a news.
There was like 100 pages every month.
Yeah, that was fun to go back to that, to experience that, because we didn't get to experience that back when they did that shit.
Yeah, he didn't put it all out at once. It was like you said, it was literally like once a month. You got 100 pages and you read it, and then you got the next one.
Yeah,
and I had to rent every single one of them from the library.
I was working at a Winn-Dixie, a grocery store at the time, so we would get them in, and I'd check the book out every month. Like, where's that fucking next Green Mile, So, gotta get to the next one.
A Winn-Dixie, that's a real place?
Yep. Worked there for about 6 years.
Like 10 parts?
I like the Majestic personally.
I do too.
I've never seen the Majestic, but apparently it's probably good because Sean hates it.
It's not his best movie, but I liked it.
Did he direct it?
Yeah.
Check. I never got
Laura,
to see it.
Jim Carrey and Laurie Holden is his love interest in it. It's
Go
Majestic is a movie theater.
Yeah, I honestly know very
It's
little
about,
about that movie.
Yeah.
About what? You see it's streaming.
People getting blacklisted in Hollywood.
Ooh, foreshadowing.
Being
Yeah, I was just going to say. Free on YouTube. Maybe I'll watch that tonight, see if Sean's right or see if Nate's right. So, anyway, I didn't do I've been busy all weekend and I hurt myself, of course. So I didn't do the images, but let's talk about this story and the mist, since we're already, 50 minutes in. What do you think of this story about the? So let me ask this: I don't even know for sure. Is it another dimension that's been breached? Is that what's going on here?
Yeah, pretty much. The big connective thing with the last Stephen King stuff is that there are other worlds than these.
Is that like where Pennywise comes from?
Yeah, he's like an interdimensional alien thing, isn't he? Yeah.
You fight
So like Project Arrowhead was literally them, scientists opening a door to another world, and
fucking around,
and those creatures get in. And there's a lot in Stephen King stuff, especially going to like the Dark Tower related elements of doors and different worlds and dimensions and stuff like that.
Yeah, so they fucked up. The mist envelops the town, and they get stuck in the grocery store. And also with that shit-ass neighbor lawyer guy who's kind of an asshole. So do you think that... Go ahead, Nate.
The tension between them right from the start is so palpable, man. It's like, even the way they address each other, like there's some bad blood there. Just, like just the way Andre responds to like, hey, I guess you saw the treehouse. He's like, yeah, and or yeah, so it's like, what a dick. Like, yeah, so it was your fucking tree, asshole. Like, you can't even like.
Well, didn't they say something about cutting that down before?
Yeah, because it was a dead tree.
Yeah, and then it happened.
He had mentioned it to him before.
Yeah. Yeah, he what?
Oh, by the way.
Okay.
Well, maybe it is. I haven't watched it since it came out, so I have to
revisit
it. One quick note about that part: the car that got smashed too.
The BMW.
Yeah. Do you have that in your tip or your trivia about the BMW?
Oh, I do not know.
Oh, it's it was. I guess the art department was told that they were getting a junker, but it was actually a rental, so they fucked it up.
Oh my god!
They had to pay all kinds of money.
Shit.
It was damaged. It was a car. It was a rental car that was damaged. Had some damage, but they damaged it more, thinking they could do whatever they want to.
Oh,
like, yeah, we got a bill for a couple thousand.
That's crazy.
That's funny.
Yeah, and
yeah, because on the commentary, Frank's talking about it. He goes, "Yeah, it was a junker," and he goes, "What?" His producer was like sitting off camera. She goes, and she jumps on. She goes, "Yeah, that was a rental." And this is what happened. Frank didn't have any clue.
We made this happen for you.
Jesus. Yeah. So anyway, back to the story. One of the things I wanted to ask was like that moment where some of the people leave, because a good chunk of the people leave, and they decide to venture out into the mist, even though there's not really proof of what happened. Because that scene at the door when the generator goes with the guy who from American Pie,
Shermanator.
Yeah, when he gets killed. But they go out and they survive. Like all of them survived. it's like, if everybody went through, do you think everybody would survive? Probably not. I think they'd get picked off one by one if they all went out. But it was surprising at the end of the movie when Thomas Jane does what he does. Uh, you see they're like, what? Oh, how'd that happen? How'd they survive in the mist? With all the creepy crawlies and shit. I mean, because I guess one of the problems with the grocery store is, there's activity in there. They can hear stuff, and
Yeah.
it's like zombies. I always have this theory that zombies are attracted to sound more than anything. And I feel like that's kind of the same thing because those spider things in the they weren't attacking them. They didn't attack until they were antagonized, really.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I like that not the people that stay behind did because I think a lot of the smarter people left. Well, especially Andre left, and if he was still there, I don't think Miss Carbony would have been able to go batshit crazy religious on everyone like she did. Which really, I don't know how many people are religious out there, but it really shows how dangerous religion can be, especially in a situation like that.
I think intelligence goes out the door when people are afraid, and that's really what the movie's talking about is how people will turn on each other and buy into so much. I mean, like you take someone like William Sadler's character who doesn't seem to have much of a brain,
Yeah.
but he's also like not buying all this shit. And then he sees it, but like when he turned that great reveal where they cut and he's praying with her and chanting what she's chanting, he's like, oh shit, you got the hothead guy. William's always, and it's funny. I met William and he's like the sweetest guy in the world, but he always plays these very kind of dark, dangerous people, intimidating people. Unless you talk about like his Grim Reaper, who's lovable. And Bill and
Or he
Ted.
was the president in Iron Man 3.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
but he's a really nice, sweet guy. He's an artist, like an actual like artist. But I love him to death. He's one of my favorite character actors.
Yeah, I like him quite a bit too because every time I see him pop up, I'm like, oh, here we go.
Yeah.
I've always enjoyed him. He was in
Demon Knight.
No, yeah, Demon. He was kind of the lead in Demon Knight.
The first Tales from the Crypt.
He was in a couple Tales from the Crypt.
Was he?
Yeah,
I was gonna say the Shawshank Redemption as a small part, but I couldn't remember the title for a second. But
he was a villain in Die Hard 2.
Oh my God, that was him.
Yep, the general.
Yeah, fucking you.
Yep.
Oh my God, I didn't realize that was him.
Yep.
You get to see his ass in that movie. How about that?
He was in Disturbing Behavior. He's been in a lot. He's in the. He was cast in the new Salem's Lot movie, which I don't know when that's going to get released.
If we're ever going to see that, yeah.
Boys, I hate to do this, but I have to leave.
Well, it was good seeing you, bud.
I'm sorry. I have a work thing to do.
It's okay,
I'm
man.
sorry.
Hey, man.
Good seeing you.
Okay.
Man.
I love you guys.
Love you too, man. Take care.
See you.
Bye.
It was almost like hanging up on a phone call. Bye. Anyway, William Sadler's definitely him and Will Patton because they seem somewhat similar. I've always loved seeing those two on the screen, and Sadler was good in this. And his character did seem like one of those people who would follow the populace for sure. It does piss me off when people use religion for fear. Whatever faith you are, no God would want someone to act like that. No, that's true. She was judging everyone, and she was acting like she was the Messiah, speaking his name. Like what they did to Sam Witwer's character in that movie was pretty fucked up. He was the army guy.
Yeah.
Sam Witwer, of course, Darth Maul.
Darth Maul.
Yeah, and he plays Star Killer, aka Galen Merrick.
Someone pointed out that he held his knife like this, like Star Killer holds his saber.
No, did he really?
Yeah, in the movie.
That's kind of funny.
Yeah. Like Carmody is one of the greatest. One of the greatest villains in a horror film ever.
Yeah, she is. And she doesn't get enough credit for like what's her name? Marcia
Gay Harden.
Yeah, she was fantastic in this role. I mean, it's everything with her just snowballed more and more and more and kept getting bigger and bigger until she was the cult leader.
Yeah, as they call her, Jim Jones in there.
Pretty much, yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, she did. I mean, she ended up having her muscle. The butcher was very daunting, and he was huge, you know. And I mean, yeah, that was one of the scariest things. I mean, that's one of the things I like about some zombie movies. I mean, you think of her, and you can almost think of her and Rhodes from Day of the Dead in the same breath in a way, you know, because they're just as dangerous as what's out, you know, beyond the walls. And she was with her all of her religious rhetoric and all that stuff. She's not exactly like Rhodes, obviously, you know, because Rhodes ran that monkey show, but you know, and in some ways, she's just as dangerous as he was because of what she was preaching. That is terrifying. Uh, and that's why I think she's
Well, yeah,
got to
well,
be
because the most level-headed people. I must have
Go
a
ahead.
delay. Sorry.
No, you're good.
I was just going to say, because the most level-headed people in the store, they were constantly facing failure after failure. They were trying things. They were trying to do the right things, and they kept coming across failure after failure. Like, example, going over to the pharmacy and other things. And with every bit of failure, it validated what she was saying, even though it's purely coincidence. But it made her kind of look better to all the other more the people more susceptible to her ideology because of their constant failures. I noticed that the last time I watched it, it's like the movie is kind of like harsh on Thomas Jane and that group of people because they're constantly just they're facing failure after failure, and she's always looking right because of their failure, and it empowers her, and it makes more people turn to her, and eventually kind of like gets to the point where even she believes that she's some sort of like prophet or whatever.
Yeah,
that's my interpretation.
I mean, well, no, and you're 100% right. I agree with that 100% because you know, and the thing is the level-headed people are trying different things rather than, you know, kind of just whatever her plan was completely. You know, they were trying different things, and just because they were failing doesn't mean they're wrong. I mean, why'd they go to the pharmacy in the first place?
They were getting medicine for the guy that was hurt, right?
Right. They were getting medicine that they didn't have in the store.
For the guy that was burned. Yep.
Yeah, exactly. And there's like, what else are they supposed to do in that situation? Trying to save a life.
Yeah.
And she's over here preaching against that. And look what's going to happen, you know. And yeah, shit went down, but obviously they did not know what was going on. Go ahead, Seth.
Well, it's like the not to get political or anything, but it's kind of like the whole thing of you know, thoughts and prayers, you know, just praying as a solution versus trying to come up with actual
being proactive
solutions. In you know, yeah,
and that's what the level-headed people are trying to do, is be proactive. Praying the mist away wasn't going to do anything, but because the failure, as you said, of them being proactive did make her seem like she was right. And there's a lot of parallels with real life now this movie, if you really pay close attention.
Yeah, and that's especially true with like William Sadler's character and his whole turn, because he was with Thomas Jane's character. You know, he was a little antagonistic at first, but you know, he was with them, and I forget what it's been a little bit since I've seen it. I forget what happened, but there was a certain thing that happened.
Asleep, and Thomas Jane's character fell asleep, woke up, and they were starting all together, I think is what happened, right?
Well, yeah, but there was some like actual like sequence of something happened where when after this big thing I think it was the grocery store attack when the guy went up in flames. I think it was like after that where the next time we see him, that he's going along with Mrs. Carmody, expiation and all that.
Yeah.
But like it was like a turn with his character because of, I mean, and that's another thing, the movie says. I think it was kind of mentioned before, but like, the things that we do because of trauma, just the sort of like irrational things. And so he witnessed something terrible, and he just kind of went to the other side because of it, because he couldn't really handle it.
And then with Sadler's turn, she had her muscle. She had the brute on her side.
Yeah.
And that's when they knew, oh shit, we gotta.
Yeah.
So when he's sitting there chanting with her, that's the turning point. We're like, oh fuck, like it was just a woman barking shit, but now she's got an enforcer with her.
And he was scary looking too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Big old enforcer in white. He was like almost the exact opposite, but just as scary as this fucking guy here. I'm just saying.
Do you think she 100% was going off of her faith, or do you think a little bit of the power corrupted her and pushed her even further?
Power. Well, what's that saying? Ultimate power corrupts. Ultimately, that's not right. Something like that. But the more followers
absolute power.
Absolute power. That's it. Absolute power. Yeah, I absolutely believe that the more she gained, the more corrupt she became. 100%.
Just like Jim Jones. Like Jim Jones was setting out to help people. He totally believed in Jesus and God and was dedicated to him.
Man, he was still a wacko, and she probably is too, though. Like,
yeah, she's a crazy lady.
Yeah,
to begin with.
Well, I mean, she's got that reputation from the beginning of the movie that she's the town wacko.
She's the Carrie White's mom. What's her name?
Right. Yeah. I see your dirty pillows.
Yeah. Maybe not as prudish, but just same character in some ways.
Seth's in his pose.
Yeah, I feel like she did absolutely believe everything she was saying, and she got corrupted by that power to the point where, I mean, she was very confident, especially by her end. When she's just sitting there leaning back in her chair.
Yeah.
Very, very confident in what she was saying. She had the longer the situation, because like at first, like everyone looked at her like she was the crazy bitch, and she had like maybe one or two people. But then as the movie goes along, as everything starts to happen, she's got more and more people, and she becomes more and more confident. She does believe what she's saying 100%, and that kind of gets to her head to the point where she's kind of, trying to prevent people from leaving.
Well, it's like after that bug lands on her and doesn't sting her, that they're like, oh, the devil didn't touch her, couldn't touch her.
Yes.
And it's, but it's only because she was being still. As you said, a bug will attack you once it's agitated. And
they're
not agitated.
To movement.
Yeah. So
I mean, think about your parents when you were little, and there's a bee on you. What do they tell you?
Don't move.
Don't move. Yeah. So it's the same thing.
So she did the right thing, and that's why she was safe. But irrational behavior is like, oh, it must have been God, must have been divine intervention, and it saved her. And that's what she's preaching. And then she's like, well, let's go back to Old Testament and let's start giving blood sacrifices here. And
they took it back to I was reminded with the kid of the witch trials, and in virgin sacrifice and all that different stuff. She went from 2007 all the way back to the Dark Ages.
Man,
really.
When she says we want the boy, I'm like, oh shit, how terrifying is that?
That is terrifying. And Sean's right. The whoever, I can't remember who shot her.
I think the older lady shot her, didn't she?
Was it the old lady?
No, it was Ollie.
Ollie, yeah, Toby Jones.
Yeah, Toby Jones.
What his name is? He was just
Indiana Jones.
The new Indiana Jones movie.
Yes. Now Seth's freaking out. So yeah,
It was
I
the
do. Yeah, I do think it's completely justified that he shot her. It needed to be done, 100%. I mean, I'm not for killing anyone, but like the way she was acting and she had a cult following, she needed to be taken out. Like,
She was the most dangerous person in that building.
oh yeah,
Yeah.
and you get, I mean, just by her rhetoric alone was made her dangerous, and that's what a situation like this. That's why this movie is so brilliant. Not just because most people think of this movie and think of the ending. They never talk about her, and she is probably the worst and best part of this entire movie is her, Mrs. Carmody. What a great performance that never gets enough respect. She's one of the best horror villains of all time, in my opinion, because of her movie.
Like you said, when you have a character who is endangering the lives, making life unsafe. I go back to Carol and the famous Carol Look at the Flowers episode, which is one of the greatest episodes of television, in my opinion, where she murders a little girl because that little girl is a danger to everyone.
Yeah. What did the little girl do? I forgot. It's been so long.
She murdered her sister, thinking that's what God wanted her to do. Like, And so they knew that they couldn't trust her because she would kill the baby. She was going to kill the baby next. She was going to kill them, in their sleep or whatever. So
Judith, right?
Judith was Rick's kid, right?
Right. Yeah. Which Judith didn't belong there if you read the comics. Saying.
But yeah, the whole thing of where this person is endangering all of us. And they need to be taken out. It's kind of like when people say we need to. If I went back in time, I'd shoot Hitler. Would all that stuff not have happened? Or Thanos. Yeah, let's take Thanos out. So she is the Hitler of this film.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, legitimately. I mean, she may not be charismatic, but like Seth was saying, everything that she was preaching was coming to pass. So she was looking like a messiah in many ways, and after she's shot, that's when they all decide to leave. Jeffrey DeMunn and Andre, I can't remember their names in the movie. I feel bad, but you know who I'm talking about.
Yeah.
They all leave and they make that awful decision because they feel like they have no hope. And God,
you see that big giant monster, you're like, all right, that's all, abandon all hope here. Like, it's not our world anymore.
Very Lovecraftian monster too, and it's they have no shot. And then I mean, those little monsters they saw early on were nothing compared to what else was out there. I'm still trying to wrap my head around how those other people survived out there, like the ones that left early. Like, how the fuck did they survive? They sent the rope out with the one guy. He gets chopped in half. They bring back, his legs.
Well, maybe it was the noise, and I think, like Melissa McBride's character did not run or act irrationally. Like, she was very calm and collected, and I think maybe she just walked home and got to her children instead of everyone else who was running and screaming and erratic.
I don't think everyone made it out alive who tried to run away at first. Only probably a few. And again, it depends on how well you can trip someone while running. So if there's a lot of people, you have a good opportunity to secure your safety. But again, there was some of them who I think Andre Braugher's character, that group that left, they didn't make it. Like, they were in the pharmacy, weren't they?
That was a great visual way to handle that rope and pulling that rope back, and then the blood being, and then people's reactions seeing the blood on the rope. It was a really nice film choice.
Yeah, there's that pharmacy scene too that Seth just mentioned was pretty damn good too, because you didn't know what was going on and all these creepy spiders and shit. There's a lot of good stuff to this movie and a lot of great looking creatures, and even some of them we just saw silhouettes of them. Like, I want to see more of that giant one that they were driving by. I'm curious to know what that, because it looked like it had tentacles coming out of its face, and was it Cthulhu? or Kawahu or whatever.
Definitely Lovecraftian creatures in this.
Yeah. Do you guys want to talk about the ending and how much of a kick in the nuts it was?
I remember watching that thinking, there's no fucking way they're going to do this. And when those gunshots go off, I was in denial. Like, there's no way. There's no way a studio would allow a movie to have this ending. This is and it did. It pissed a lot of people off. People hate this fucking movie because of that. And it made me love the movie. It took the movie from being a good movie to an amazing film because I'm like, as someone, I think Sean said earlier, someone had the balls to do that.
Yeah.
And, the book doesn't have an ending. And so Frank came up with this ending years ago, and he always stuck to it. And he said, I'm going to do this ending or I won't do the movie. And Steven loved the ending. He said he wished he'd thought of it, and Steven said that the movie terrified him. And Frank said that was the greatest moment of his career. Was Stephen King was truly terrified of the movie.
I mean, I get why. I mean, the worst part is how quickly after that happens that everything clears up.
Yeah.
That's awful. They, of course, we know what happens. There's 5 of them left or something like that with the kid. Spoiler alert. And does he kill them all and then he's supposed to kill himself, right?
Well, he's out. He only has 4 bullets.
So he decides.
He only had 4. Yep.
Yeah.
So he's going to face the monsters. His son said, "Don't let the monsters get me, Dad," and that's why he does it.
Right.
Because the only alternative is the monsters are going to get him. So, and he's the first one he shoots. So just Thomas Jane, the agony and the pain, it's his best performance in my opinion. Like after shooting them, just the complete breakdown and trying to shoot himself, just click, 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 and then when he sees the mist clear and the tank coming and realizes, oh my God, if I had waited 5 minutes, I wouldn't have had to shoot my child in the face. It's one of the most horrifying things I've ever seen in a movie, and we don't see it, but just the idea of it, and I was left stunned, and I don't get that much in a horror movie.
No, it's got to be one of the best endings to a horror movie, at least within that decade, maybe even of all time. Because I remember we just bought it on a blind buy, Elizabeth and myself, and we just kind of just sat there and paused it. And right after the mist cleared, you see the tank. I just paused it, like, holy shit, did that just really happen? Like,
yeah,
it's like my mind started spinning after that. Like, what if his wife is still alive at home?
yeah.
And he's got to explain that he had to kill his son.
Well, they passed by and saw his wife dead.
That's right.
Yeah,
but still, what's he going to tell the authorities? Like, I just killed 4 people or 3 people or whatever it is, including my son.
I think he'll be forgiven on that, but yeah,
he won't forgive himself.
I think what it was like, to see this kind of, let's get away from it takes balls. A lot of filmmakers would do this if they were allowed.
Yeah.
And it really took Bob Weinstein saying, okay, really, we get this movie because Bob Weinstein said, okay, you can do that ending. That really took a lot of trust for a producer to say, okay, yeah. And I think that was the biggest shot because, I could do that ending in my movies because no one's there to tell me, no, that's not going to make any money. So, this is a kind of cruelty, and it is kind of a cruelty to the audience. A lot of people felt like this is a cruel way to end the movie because people take this stuff to heart. And you might see that in a low-budget independent underground movie, but to see it in a movie starring movie stars, in a big movie, when you see those type of endings, it's just not. This goes beyond like The Sixth Sense. It's not like, oh, he was dead. No, it's like, oh my God, he just murdered for nothing. He just had to shoot his own child. It's just the star, the hero of the movie, shot his own kid in the face to save his life. to save him from the horror outside of that truck.
Mm-hmm. I mean, he did grant his last request, I guess. Don't let the monsters get me.
Yeah.
If you want to kind of, it's just a really sad, heartbreaking ending, and what a way to end a good movie, because the movie is really good, other than just the ending. But it sucks. Like we spent a lot of time talking about this Carmody. It sucks that she really doesn't get enough credit, but the ending overshadows almost the entire movie because of how it's presented and how it happens. I've never seen $1 Million Baby or Only the Brave. So
both good movies.
Yeah. I own $1 Million Baby. I just never watched it. I don't know. How does it end in the book?
Yeah, from what I remember, they just keep driving. It doesn't have an ending.
That's a Stephen King ending
it leaves,
for you.
Yeah, it leaves it open.
Yeah.
And the movie could not end that way. We would have felt robbed. It worked in the book, but we needed an ending, and if they had just like survived, I don't think it would, like, if they had survived, I would have been, oh, that was a good movie. But the way it ends, again, I was just left like numb of, oh my God, someone let this be released. Someone let that go and put that out there. It took guts to do.
I'm so happy I wasn't a parent yet, because I don't know, like because I think your daughter is a year older than my son, but we were still not parents yet. So.
Saw it in the theater, and it was 2007.
Oh, lucky.
I saw it before, because she was born in 2008.
Yeah.
Hell of a movie. What?
I don't know. He kills me. Sean kills me.
He's calling the book hot garbage.
Yeah, you don't need to do exactly how it ends in the book. That's why it's because it's hot garbage, I guess. I don't know. I've never read it. I was never a Stephen King book reader. I read Pet Sematary, Christine, The Shining. I read a few of his books, and I liked them. I just never really got into them. I was always a comic book reader anyway. I only read a few. I've read a bunch of books, but not really Stephen King.
There's a little trivia. Frank wanted Stephen King to play the biker guy, the guy that goes out with a car. Steve's like,
awesome.
Steve's like, nah, I don't want to do that.
I like when Stephen King pops up, though.
Yeah.
Whether it be the minister, preacher, whatever in Pet Sematary, or the guy in the old time shop in It Chapter 2.
There's a few tidbits since Jared had to leave.
Yeah, go ahead.
There's one where when they go to the pharmacy, Thomas Jane grabs a Hellboy comic off a stand. He did that because he did that as a nod to his buddy Ron Perlman, because I think he did a movie with Ron Perlman after that. He directed a movie. Thomas Jane sat in with the editing process during this movie because he wanted to learn filmmaking, because he was about to direct. But what happened was they were on set and their comics are there, and Frank suggested he pull a Punisher comic off the shelf, but Thomas apparently had bad blood with the Punisher people and said no. So they made it Hellboy instead.
I'm glad that they had some problems with Punisher. That's why he never came back, I think. I've never seen that show either.
I've never watched Sons of Anarchy. Talking about Ron Perlman.
Yep.
Let's see if I had any other things like
he's talking about Pennywise at the end of chapter 2. That's hot garbage.
We can talk about the making of the movie, because we haven't really talked about the directing, the cinematography. This movie was quick, and that's something I noticed. When I saw this movie, I wasn't a filmmaker yet. So now watching it all these years later, I'm like, okay, now I see things I didn't notice then. The thing I noticed right away was, wow, this movie is completely handheld, and a lot of wonders and a lot of just camera moving, because it's a big. that's a huge ensemble to be filming, a lot of characters.
Mhm.
And you could do cut, get everyone's coverage. That would take for fucking ever. So Frank had worked on, I believe, The Shield, the TV show The Shield. Now, I've never watched The Shield, but I'm assuming it's like a lot of TV was at that time, where you have multiple cameras handheld, and the camera's moving and always moving and is covering the action of what's happening. So that's how they shot the film, which cuts down so much time because you don't have to set. When the camera is locked down on a tripod, it just takes a lot of time. But if your camera people are mobile, and they had two cameramen going at the same time, so sometimes they would run into each other, catch each other, and they'd have to remove them, or they had to cut or whatever. But if you watch the film, go back and watch it, whenever like someone's talking over here and then someone over here will talk, they'll whip over and catch them, and then the camera's constantly moving through handheld, and that sped up the film because they didn't have a lot of time to make the movie. The movie was very low budget, believe it or not. I think that's where it's really noticeable is the CGI is pretty damn poor in the movie. I think it's just because of budget. I don't think they had the money or the time to do it perfect. But for what they did, I mean, they did have Greg Nicotero doing their makeup. Greg and Frank are close buddies. So some of that was practical, like the tentacles and things, some of that, but some of them were obviously CG.
Yeah.
So yeah, but in black and white, it looks a lot better, actually, the CGI.
I was gonna say, I wondered if some of that stuff does look better in black and white.
Yeah, because the black and white, you're able to get like kind of high contrasts, and so it kind of helps in that area. Still looks questionable, but a whole lot better than it did in color. But that's one of the things I remember about The Mist was the CGI wasn't as good as other films were. But knowing now, he said he had 8 weeks to prep this movie, and usually he gets 5 months to prep a movie. So that's how fast they were moving to get this film shot. They were shooting it actually on downtime. He brought the people from The Shield, the film crew and everybody and the camera people, to shoot this movie. So while they were on hiatus with The Shield, they shot this movie. So it was like a fast thing. That's why the film, the shots, the camera work, and all that is the way it is. But it also helps because it's just to have that many characters interacting and having conversations would be a nightmare to cover everyone traditionally. So to have everyone on their feet, and Thomas Jane talked about it. They said like it was kind of interactive when they were filming it. It was more like being on stage in film. When you're in film acting, if you're not on camera, you don't have to fully give it all your all. And some actors don't. Some actors will, but they'll save the energy and the performance for when it's their close-up or when it's their coverage. But when you're in theater, you're on stage the whole time. So when you're in a play, you need to be 100% in and invested and on. And that's how this movie was, because they never knew where the camera was, because the camera could be on them or going to them or whatever. So a lot of the actors loved this because it felt like stage. It felt like theater. And they had to be in the world, completely committed to it, into the scene the whole time, because they never knew what was going to happen. But they would even get the camera guys involved. Like the camera guys would actually push people out of the way, push actors out of the way so they could get the shot they wanted because they saw it happening. So they could see a moment and they would like, get the fuck out of the way, Thomas Jane. And they said, and Tom loved it. He goes, yeah, get me the fuck out of the way. He goes, and sometimes Tom would grab a camera and go, get over here, I'm about to do this, and pull the camera guy over to what he was going to do. So that energy is in the film, really. If you watch the film, it's got a lot of energy because that's how they were filming it.
I didn't realize that. That's cool. It sounds like it probably would have been a fun set to be on too. At the same time, fun and probably stressful.
Stressful, yeah. But they talked about Frank. They said the guy's never tired. He was always on his feet. He was always smiling. he was living a dream making this movie because he wanted to make it for so long. And he said the guy just had, and when your director is that way, you want to be part of that. You're motivated to put that kind of energy and that kind of commitment to the project. And it sounded like everyone was pretty much a family in many, many ways on that film, and supporting each other and wanting to make a great project, and just the atmosphere that Frank creates on set was, hitting everybody, infecting everybody. And anytime you see Frank talk, man, he just does have this enthusiasm, and he loves what he does. That's what's a shame that he hasn't done anything.
Yeah, absolutely. Any interview I've seen, he's got a big ass grin on his face, and he just loves talking about film, which is really cool to see.
That's what sucked about The Walking Dead, because he worked hard on that. And he built that and invested it, and that was a dream project. He loved that stuff, and to have it end the way it ended just kind of sucked. I mean, I was kind of torn because I loved it.
Exactly what happened.
They were cutting the budget and all kinds of shit, and they didn't want to let it, because the first, I think it was like 6 episodes. I think it was season 1. It wasn't a lot, and he was doing all these things, and then the reason the second season is all at the farm is because they wanted to cut budget, so they couldn't go and do all the things they wanted to do because they didn't have the budget. So he was just kind of fighting for the quality and to tell the stories he wanted to tell. And they just were like, no, we're not paying. They were just trying to penny pinch. And I can't entirely blame AMC, because this was kind of the movie that made AMC a contender in television, because they really didn't do original stuff prior to this. And this show didn't take off until probably the tail end of season 2. I was kind of had a front row seat, because I actually wrote an article in Horror Hound magazine about The Walking Dead before it premiered, because I was a big fan of the comics, and I wrote it. And in my article, I'm saying I think this show is going to be fucking massive, because this material is so good. Rick Grimes is such a great character. I just believed in this material so much that and Frank Darabont being involved, I just felt that this was going to be an amazing show. And it was good, but it didn't take off until about season 2, season 3, like 2011, 2012, more to 2012, because I was there at the conventions when I watched like Norman Reedus and all these guys doing shows go from hardly anyone interested to just all of a sudden Michael Rooker and Norman Reedus and John Bernthal and Damon and all these people were like the hottest thing going, and like where they had endless lines.
Mm-hmm.
And it just kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger. Walking Dead was kind of like the worst thing that ever happened to conventions in that way, because it became all about the celebrities, and all of a sudden all the prices went up for autographs and photo ops because of The Walking Dead. All of a sudden, like the headliners who were getting $30 for an autograph, the Walking Dead guys were getting 40. So all like the guys were like, well, hold on, I'm Freddy fucking Krueger. And why is this girl who was on 2 episodes of The Walking Dead getting $40 an autograph?
Yeah, it ruined a lot for all of us fans.
Yeah. So, but I watched how huge that was from witnessing in person. I did like I think 15 shows in 2011. Maybe not that many, but close, 10 to 13 or so. And that's when Walking Dead was just gradually becoming huger every month, to the point where Norman Reedus would have a 5-hour line all the time, and his price just kept going up and up and up.
It's a shame.
I think too that there was some sort of issue with the pilot episode, and he was trying to save it. And actually, a lot of because basically the pilot, well, not pilot episode, but the first episode of season 2, you can watch some deleted scenes on the Blu-ray, whatever. But like the first episode of season 2 was actually literally 2 episodes combined into one with editing, because there was actually a lot that they removed. There was some stuff, I guess there was some behind the scenes issues, which is, I mean, kind of common. But yeah, and I think he was kind of involved, like everything to like the first half of season 2 was under Durabant's direction, almost like, you know, like as the showrunner. And then he got replaced with the second half of it. But, you know, because of that situation, he didn't take any credit. Like if you watch the first couple episodes of season 2, the writing credits go to Ardith Bay, which is a character from The Mummy.
Yeah,
because
I was gonna say, really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think what was with Frank was, you know, these people don't want someone who is going to fight them so much. And I think Frank was a fighter for this because he believed in it and loved it so much that, again, this is a guy that was offered like $30 million to do The Mist if he changed that ending. And he said, fuck you. No, he wouldn't do the movie without that ending. He would have never made it if he never got that ending. And,
I'm glad it is the way it is. There's nothing wrong with this movie.
Yeah.
The CG's not great, but, you know, again, if you watch it in black and white, which I should be able to in 2 days maybe, based on Amazon's delivery. But I did order it.
And I mentioned the handheld thing was really an exciting way to shoot it. I don't really like handheld that much. Like I especially when there's no motivation. At least there's motivation here, but I don't like cameras whipping back. What it does is it does make you feel like you're there. You feel like you're in that grocery store with all those people.
Yeah,
because of the way it's
shot. For sure. I agree with that. Tuesday.
So it fits the material. I'm not a big fan of it, but it does fit the material and adds to the chaos. And it allowed them to be able to shoot the movie as fast as they had to.
Which is good. Movie. I still think overall the movie turned out pretty great.
Yeah, it's still a great movie. It's one of the best of that era, and it's a really great monster movie. And I hopefully we get eventually another Frank Darabont Stephen King movie.
Yeah, I guess it depends on Darabont himself.
He was supposed to do.
Go ahead, Zeb.
I'm sorry, this fucking delay. He was supposed to do The Long Walk.
Yeah,
attached to do that, which I would have loved to have seen.
I was reading about a few things he was supposed to do. He was commissioned to do The Fly 2, an early draft of The Rocketeer, and he wrote an unproduced sequel to Commando.
Oh, I'd love to see that.
And he was a writer on the Young Indiana Jones Chronicles, and wrote 2 episodes of Tales from the Crypt.
Yeah, he's a. So, by the way, I typed in Martin on Blu-ray, and it took me to Martin Lawrence movies on Amazon. Sorry, I had to tell you that, guys.
See if here's what it says about The Mist. Darabont had originally wanted to direct The Mist even before he directed Shawshank, but kept pushing it back. It was 2004 before he began to write the screenplay for the film. Most of the crew that worked on it worked on the television series The Shield, as Darabont hired them after directing an episode of the series to give it a more fluid, ragged documentary kind of direction. Darabont also helped, and I forgot about it, he had Bernie Wrightson draw some of the creatures. I mean, I've seen some of those drawings. And Jordu Shell, who's a really great, sculptor. And the film's lead makeup artist, Greg Nicotero. Cafe Effects did the effects. Guillermo del Toro introduced them to them after they did Pan's Labyrinth. The film was a modest success at the box office, but earned positive reviews from critics. King also praised Darabont's new ending, saying, "The ending is such a jolt. Wham! It's frightening. The people who go to see a horror movie don't necessarily want to be sent out with a Pollyanna ending." That's all it says on there.
A what?
A Pollyanna ending.
What's that?
I haven't seen Pollyanna in a long time.
I've never seen Pollyanna.
How does Pollyanna end? Pollyanna. Damn it, I forget. Grows up. I saw Pollyanna a long time ago.
Is Pollyanna the girl from Miss Bliss?
It's a book.
It is Haley Mills. It's Miss Bliss
Yeah.
from Saved by the Bell. I'm looking right now to see how it ends. I don't care about spoilers. Oh, it's just a happy ending.
Yeah, that's what I figured. It was like a cheerful, happy ending.
The one thing I got out of this episode, just so you guys know, is I have not seen a lot of things.
Like what?
I don't remember some of the things that we talked about, but a lot of stuff that Darabont did, I guess, that we talked. I'll have to go back and watch the. I've not seen that. Oh, I've not seen that. The Majestic. I've not seen that.
The Majestic was a movie that was kind of overlooked a bit, I think.
Well, I'm going to watch it after we get off of here, probably. Fold some more laundry.
I think it came out around the same time Matinee, maybe? No, it was after Matinee, wasn't it?
It's
Matinee.
01.
Yeah. So I always coupled them because they're both like old movie theater.
Yeah. Matinee was
movies.
mid-90s, wasn't it?
Yeah, 93.
Yeah. Sorry, let me yawn.
It was kind of, when Jim Carrey's career was starting to go in some ways
sideways.
Well, he was starting to look into more serious stuff.
He was starting to do
post-Truman Show.
Yeah, I guess, did he do Eternal Sunshine before that? What
that was after. That was like 04, 03. That's a damn good movie.
That's a masterpiece there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a really good movie. I was surprised by that one. Between him and Rose, it's Rose DeWitt Bukater. It's really good. I fuck, what's her name now? I can't remember her name.
Kate Winslet, my favorite actress.
I do love her quite a bit, and it wasn't because of Titanic. It was because of that movie. Is where I really kind of that. There's a movie called The Holiday that
she's really good in The Holiday. I have been a fan of Kate. The first thing I saw was Peter Jackson. It's her first film, Heavenly Creatures. Her and Melanie Linsky. They were about 14, 15 years old, and it's actually one of my favorite Peter Jackson movies, if not my favorite. And she did Titanic like a couple of years later. And then everything I saw her in, this woman's awesome.
She is.
And I have a big crush on her too. So
nothing wrong with that. Seth can't say who he has crushes on. He's not allowed.
He's a crush on me.
That's true. How does Amber feel about that, Seth?
Well, she doesn't know.
No, she does if she watches this show. All right. Is there anything else we want to go over before we pass out for the night? Not pass out, but my ankle's starting to hurt. I need to get some drugs. So, anything else? Any last thoughts on this one, Seth? Is there anything we missed?
No, I mean, I really like the movie. It's one I watched quite a bit. I showed it to my kids like 2 years ago, and they really liked it up until the ending. But because of the ending, they don't really like it anymore. I think it's great because of the ending, especially. But like I said, it's not just the ending. The whole movie just kind of takes you on an emotional roller coaster. I think it's well made. Frank Darabont is one of my favorite filmmakers, especially when he does Stephen King stuff. And I wish he would do more. I love the score for it, especially with the third act. The acting's great. It's just, I think it's a really cool movie. And fun fact, the poster that Thomas Jane was painting in the beginning, if you don't know, is Roland from the Dark Tower series.
Let me ask you this, Seth, and I'll ask Nate the same question. If you could have Darabont direct any King property, what would you want him to do, even if it's a new movie or a remake?
Ooh.
I think he's. I mean, he's. I don't know.
Go ahead, Nate.
No, you go. I can't think of anything. Well, I think he's best at the emotional stuff. It has to have something very like Shawshank and Green Mile were just perfect fits with him. And
So Graveyard Shift. No, I'm joking.
Yeah, I don't know. Like I think he would have been really great for the 10/22/63, the Kennedy thing.
The show's good. I mean,
yeah, I love the miniseries, but I think he would have been perfect for that.
Yeah, I could see that.
The book is like my
11/22/63
is 11/22/63 is my favorite Stephen King book, and I do like the miniseries that they had, but like I think I probably would have preferred Darabont to do it. But I mean, also the Running Man, the book, The Running Man, because the Arnold movie they changed a lot. Like it's barely Stephen King's story. They changed so much about it. But if they did the actual story from the book, there is a lot of emotion in there too. I mean, and the spoiler, the book ends with the main character Ben basically just saying "fuck you" and crashing a helicopter into a corporate headquarters place. You know, there's a lot of emotion with it too. Like the reason why he joins that program. I don't know. I think the Running Man, the book version, he'd be perfect for.
But if he ever gets remade under that title, people are going to get mad.
Well, unfortunately, a lot of people. Exactly. And it's unfortunate, too, because, like, the Arnold movie is fun, but it does not capture that story at all.
It's got the best delivery of "I'll be back." He never said it better. I think Frank he'd be good at all of it, but there's also part of me of like I would like to see him do Pet Sematary.
Ooh,
he'd be great for that.
Yeah, he would. Talk about better than what happened in 2019.
Yeah.
All right, Nate, you got some.
Well, because I mean, like Mary Lambert did.
Go ahead.
Sorry. Mary Lambert did a really faithful adaptation in '89, but like there's a lot of parts of the book, and especially how it deals with the grief and some of the history between Lewis and his in-laws that was not in the movie. Like I feel like Darabont could take a different angle of that story and really hammer in the grief that story gives. I mean, that's one of Stephen King's finest books because of how powerful it is. So
one of the few I actually read.
Yeah, my favorite two books are Pet Sematary and the 11/22/63.
Yeah.
I never read the book, but I did like the miniseries.
The book, reading Pet Sematary, when I read it, I remember being sad that it ended. Like I was just sad that the book, there was no more to read because I really loved the Creed family. I just remember really loving that family and not wanting to leave them.
Especially Ellen.
I mean, Ellen Creed. I felt like she was more important in the book than she was in the movie. Like the movie really kind of like scratched the surface of her character because she essentially has the shine.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why don't they do something like a Stephen King verse? You know, like I don't like where things could end. They could end up making a huge Avengers style movie. Bring Danny and Blaze Birdall back to be Ellen.
Well, I mean, it's kind of that with the Dark Tower. It's a 7-book series, which would another thing that would be great for Darabont to do. But he ties to a lot of his stuff in that. Like, literally, a character from Salem's Lot appears in the 5th book of the Dark Tower, and he's important throughout the rest of it.
I think it's super fucking long, but someone, and Darabont would be great, do a trilogy of The Stand for this big screen, like a really great film of that, because I don't think we've gotten it yet.
No, I mean that'd be fantastic to see on the big screen. And if there's anyone who can improve on the ending of that book, it would be Darabont, because like it's one of Stephen King's finest books up until the end. Like the whole 3rd act of his book is just it pisses me off. Because, like, I don't want to get into a tangent about it, but you're led to believe these characters, their journeys are for something, and then it's just for essentially nothing till the hand of God comes down.
All right, let's do some final thoughts, Nate.
Final thoughts. I used to love this movie more than I do now. I don't know, but I don't. That doesn't mean I don't like it anymore. I just don't pop it in. I never had like a drive to watch it again. So I was glad to be able to watch it again, especially the black and white. It made me more excited when I thought, oh yeah, the black and white. So if anyone hasn't seen it in black and white, as Ray did, co-order that thing right now.
$12 on Amazon.
Yeah, you won't want to watch it in color again after you've seen it that way, because I mean it's the way they intended. It's the way Stephen King envisioned it when he wrote it, which we didn't mention. Stephen actually did go to the grocery store with his son after a storm, and that's where the idea he was like in I don't know what aisle, and he imagined, what if we were stuck here and there was like this big giant bird thing, prehistoric bird in here, and then he had the whole story in his head, like on the ride home or something from the grocery store. So all Stephen King stories are like that. He was like, well, yeah, I went here and then this idea popped in my head and then he wrote it. I wish I could come up with these great stories just by going out somewhere. I mean, they do. As a writer, stories do just come out of nowhere. You can be there thinking, and then out of nowhere something will happen, and it'll just pull. You get those connective dots where you're like, "What about this and this?" Like Toby Hooper saying, "I'm in Sears and I'm in line, and there's all these people, and I see a chainsaw. And I'm like, what if I just cut through all these people?" And then Texas Chainsaw Massacre comes to his mind. So, it's interesting, but. The Mist just has this. It's like the perfect setting because a grocery store where it's kind of like a mini Dawn of the Dead. We could live here. I always love stuff that takes place in stores or malls or things. I don't know why. I love Career Opportunities. I love Dawn of the Dead. Yeah. Mall Rats. So I guess because we're so familiar with those places.
It makes sense.
Yeah.
I can't wait to watch this when I'm going to get it in a couple of days. I'll probably watch it, which is great because it's late by a few days for me to watch the black and white. But I'm looking forward to it.
Mannequin.
The Mannequin, yeah, that's another good. My daughter, that's one of her favorite movies. But not Mannequin 2 on the Move. That was not as good. But yeah, The Mist is a good one. Really glad that we got an opportunity. Hopefully we covered pretty much everything you guys wanted to talk about with this one. I know we kind of went all over the place with The Walking Dead. It's hard to not mention The Walking Dead and The Mist because it was Darabont's projects, one almost right after another, and how much came from this to The Walking Dead. Made me almost want to do a Walking Dead episode of the show.
I think there's like at least 8 or 9 actors in The Mist who ended up in The Walking Dead in some way.
Yeah, and I almost want to rewatch the show, but I don't. It's insufferable to try to rewatch. I think The Walking Dead is one of those shows that has no rewatchability. That's just my opinion. because like every episode's a cliffhanger. And you know what's coming on the other side. Like that, I tried rewatching it a couple years ago, and I got to that episode with Rick and the governor in that room for 45 minutes, and I was like, it was kind of a drag. And they also did that character wrong anyway, in my opinion. Did you get through the whole comic, Nate?
Yeah, I haven't finished the show though. Last time I was watching the show, I think it was after Alpha got decapitated or killed by Negan.
The last thing I saw, Rick got taken away by a helicopter. So,
well,
I don't know.
I think that was
Anyway,
before.
Alpha,
I think I think that was before Alpha shows up, right?
Yeah. I mean,
yeah. So
we know what happens in the comics. So
I would recommend checking it out just to see Samantha Morton's performance as Alpha. She's fucking phenomenal in it. Like she's really as good as anybody who was ever on that show.
Why do I know that name?
She was in like
what is she from?
She first broke out in Minority Report, I think, was her big breakout. But she's been in a lot of stuff. One of my favorite movies, In America, with her and Patty Considine, is a really good movie. She's one of those actresses, you know, I guess she's never been a big star, but she's one of those character actresses, you know, that whenever you see her, she's just good. She's good at what she is. And her as Alpha it wasn't how I pictured the character in the comics. She kind of plays her kind of a Southern, but it's just fucking phenomenal performance, really. One of the very best. I'd put her up there with Melissa McBride and Lenny James and Andrew Lincoln, amongst, you know, the best performers on that show.
Yeah, I'm not sure what I saw her in. I'm looking at her filmography now. Anyway, yeah, I'll one of these days I'll get around to it. I think it's all on Netflix still. I'm surprised it didn't go to being an AMC property to Shudder. Could you imagine? Oh my God, Shudder would get crazy subs, I bet. Anyway, that's our show for the night. Thanks for coming. On Wednesday, we are doing, me and Seth are braving through the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, The Next Generation, and the 2022 Texas Chainsaw Massacre, which I'm actually looking forward to watching because I haven't seen it since the first time. And maybe it'll feel like the first time, the very first time. Anyway, next week, don't forget. So make sure you watch a bunch of George Romero movies. We're doing a full retrospective starting at the beginning and going to the last film that he made. I just ordered The Crazy so I can watch that. Hopefully it'll be in. Martin is way too expensive for me to buy. What you got there, Nate?
Watch Destiny.
Yes, and I was getting to that. And then, of course, Nate and his new segment. You got to see this. I love that image. Check out Destiny on YouTube. If you'd like to purchase it, where'd you get it from? Was it Kino Larber?
Yeah, they had a sale a few months ago, and I got a bunch of stuff, and that was one that, yeah,
they just had another sale for 4th of July too. Unfortunately, we all missed that. I didn't even. I shared that Severance sale, and I didn't even get anything.
Yeah, right now, Criterion, Barnes & Noble has all their films for 50% off, so you can get a Phantom Carriage, which I brought up.
Yep, absolutely. There you go. 2-3 weeks ago.
Yep.
So lots of stuff to check out. We'll be back next week with a fresh episode of George Romero. So you Romero fans, check us out. We will see you then. Have a great week.